All right. I think we're top of the hour here. Can folks hear me all the way in the back, hopefully? Yes? Yes. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our session today, Intro to Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN. My name is Adrian Iliesiu. I'm a senior developer advocate with Cisco DevNet. Happy to see such a big interest in our intro class over here. How many of you, quick show of hands, have worked with Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN? All right, not that many. Okay, perfect. So this session should really be for most of you. The agenda for today is we're going to have a quick introduction. I'm going to tell you a couple of words about myself. Then what is Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN? We're going to talk about the SD-WAN Manager REST API. I'm DevNet, so I got to have like a REST API spiel in the presentation just to show you kind of like the art of possible and how you can start automating your day-to-day tasks with Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN. Then at the end, we'll have a quick conclusion with some final thoughts. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, it's only half an hour. Raise your hand. I'll try to address it on the spot. If you want to have a longer discussion, I'm here for the rest of the day. I'm not going to be here tomorrow, but you can find me online, on Twitter, and LinkedIn, all of that. All right, so like I was saying, Adrian Iliesiu, I'm a senior developer advocate. I cover enterprise networking, automation, and programmability for Catalyst Center, Catalyst SD-WAN, iOS XC, and then Meraki. I've been doing this for a long time. You'll see in the next slide, I will really show my age. I've been a network engineer, system engineer, team leader, QA throughout Europe, North America. I went through the NetAcad, trained things, starting with CCNA back in 2003. Got my CCIE eventually. And I co-authored the DevNet Associate official cert guide. So if you have the book, you want an autograph or something, I'm here. It might lower the value of the book with my autograph, so think twice. All right, so what is Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN, right? Who recognizes this piece of gear? That's gonna show your age, right? Not many of you. That's yeah. So this guy, right? The internet was running on it many years ago. Who remembers Dynamics? Not the man. Oh, a couple of people. All right. So yes, Dynamics was before GNS3, before EVE-NG, before CML. That was like the OG of emulated hardware in software. So they were emulating this 7604 back then. That was, as far as I know, kind of like the first emulated router. It was more than 15 years ago. Anyway, enough with the history. So back in the day, and even now, right, what the role of these devices and how they were built is to have three main components, basically, right? You have your control plane module. This is like your supervisors, right, where all the routing protocols are enabled, where your management is turned on, right? High availability, all of those features. You have then your I/O module. These are modules where data traffic is being forwarded, right? This is where you connect your clients. This is where it's the piece of the hardware that's actually doing the forwarding, the routing, the switching, all of that. And in the back, you have your switch fabric, which is pretty much, like a piece of metal that connects all these different cards. You can exchange electricity and, of course, data between them. So that's everything encompassed in one box, right? All these capabilities, features, forwarding traffic, protocols, and exchanging data between all these different cards. So this has been running, and even now, a lot of devices are still built over the same architecture. But with SD-WAN, what they were thinking is like, let's split these components, right? Let's take the control plane apart. Let's take the switching fabric apart, and then the I/O modules. So it's like all this functionality got split into different components, and that's what became SD-WAN, right? Software-defined wide area networks. So you have your control plane module, right? You have these several components, and they split the control plane module into multiple components with specific functions. And we'll see what each of these components, what functions they have. Why did they do that? scalability, right? So now you can have this control plane, these servers, depending on the size of your WAN infrastructure, you can have tens of thousands of sites interconnected, hundreds of thousands of sites interconnected and managed from one central location with these different components. Then the switch fabric, well, all the transport, the internet became your switch fabric, your 5Gs, your MPLS circuits, that's your switch fabric. That's what's used for connecting all these components and exchanging data between them. That's that piece of metal in the back of the box became your internet, MPLS, 5G, you name it, all the transports that are interconnecting all these networks. And then the I/O module, your edge routers became your I/O modules, your V edges, right? The old Vitella, your C edges, your ISR routers, your catalysts now, they all became your I/O module where you connect your branches, where you connect your customers, where you connect devices that you want to forward traffic through. So now, different components. We see there's the manager. And by the way, the Catalyst SD-WAN went through a renaming recently. So it used to be just Cisco SD-WAN based on the Vittel acquisition. And then they recently renamed it to Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN. You might have seen also DNA Center, now it's Catalyst Center. So there's a trend clearly at Cisco to name all of these products Catalyst for whatever reason. But that renaming also went to renaming the components in the control plane especially. So it used to be a vManage, now it's called the manager. The validator used to be vBond. So since most of you are new to this, you don't really need to know, the history. I'm just telling for folks that have seen this before. So validator used to be vBond, and the controllers used to be vSmart. They were calling that all with V from Vitella, I would imagine. So they've been all of them renamed. So let's see what their role is, right? And how can they scale these WAN connections to hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of sites. So you have the validator. This is what used to be vBond, and this is the orchestration plane component, and orchestrates control and management planes. So when one of these edge routers come online, right, you have a new branch, a new data center that you want to bring into your SD-WAN fabric. You connect it to the network. The first thing it will do is going to try to reach the vBond device, right, the validator in this case. So it's the first point of authentication. That's what is going to happen. As you connect your edge router, it's going to go automatically and try to connect to that validator server. And by the way, these are all like virtual machines, right, like servers that you can run. There's also a managed version of this that you can purchase from Cisco. So it's the first point of authentication and distributes the list of controllers and managers to these edge routers. So the edge routers will get the information to which manager to connect from the validator, right? So the validator is the one that requires universally reachable IP address, so a public address, and that's the only one that needs to be reachable, right, from all your edges. All the other ones, all the other components can be behind a firewall, not exposed to the outside world. They facilitate net traversal, so it takes care of that, and can be multi-tenant or single-tenant. The next component is the controllers. What used to be a vSmart, so these are the control plane. These components facilitate fabric discovery. They disseminate control plane information between edge devices. So it's the component that pushes policy to your edge devices, right? So configuration on all these devices, how you want to configure your circuits. Ideally, you would have a couple of circuits, right, for redundancy. Maybe you have an internet and an MPLS. Maybe you have an internet and 5G, whatever it is. You push that configuration through this controller components. They distribute data plane policies to edge devices and also implement control plane policies. So you'll see the configuration actually done in the manager, in the GUI. The manager connects to the controllers. The controllers push the configuration to the devices. And then the edge devices. These are your edge routers. Could be like I said, V edges, C edges, what we call now your ISRs, routers, your catalysts. And these are your devices that connect your branches, your remote locations, and they have a secure data plane with remote edge devices. They establish secure control plane with the controllers, so they only communicate with the controllers. After the initial VBON validation, they get the IP addresses of the controllers, and that's how they would communicate. They implement data plane policies, so these are the ones that actually do the forwarding, the implementation of what you want to do in your fabric. Support zero-touch deployments, so you can have them pre-configured. You send them to a site, right, and somebody just connects a cable, and that's it. They come online, connect VBON, get the IP addresses or the host names of the controller, the manager, and it's pretty much, you can make it be as easy as just connecting a cable, right? You don't need anyone remotely to configure anything. Supports traditional routing protocols, of course, so SPF, BGP, and first stop redundancy, and many more. And like I said, could be physical or virtual. So you could have these virtual instances of CSR 1000 Vs or Catalyst AK Vs now running in AWS. So you can expand your SD-WAN fabric to AWS, Azure, GCP, whatever. So you can have like this hybrid environment where you have your on-prem or your branches, and you can also expand your SD-WAN fabric into cloud environments. And last but not least, the management plane, the manager, and that's the component that you will actually interact. That's the only component that actually interact. Actually, it has a graphical user interface, right? You connect with a username and password, and you get, based on what role-based access control you have. You can be an administrator. You can be you can just watch monitoring interfaces, or you can configure your SD-WAN fabric if you have admin rights. So it's the single pane of glass for everything, all the operations. That's the component you connect to. It does centralized provisioning, monitoring, and troubleshooting on it. So that's where you would troubleshoot. So something happens, you get alerts in there. You would troubleshoot. You can connect to all the edge routers through the manager. So you get connection from there to your edges. Can be multi-tenant or single-tenant. All the policies, templates are defined on the manager. Role-based access control, like I was saying. And most importantly for us in DevNet is that it provides a programmatic REST API interface. So you'll see whatever you can do in the GUI, in the graphical user interface on the manager, you can perform the same actions through a programmatic REST API interface, right? All right, any questions so far? Does it make sense? Kind of like, so by splitting, right, your control plane, your IO modules, and your switch fabric into these different components, you can scale, and that's what SD-WAN is, just like splitting these components and building the functionality in different servers and edge devices. All right, so the REST API. You can find the API documentation on the manager instance itself. So if you just put the host name of or the IP address of your manager and you go to /API docs, that will give you this page, which has a list of all the API endpoints. What does that mean is that you can see, for example, administration user and groups. So you can create users programmatically, right? You can have something like Ansible or Terraform or Python script or shell script or whatever it is, programmatically configure your users or apply templates or change policy or whatever you do in the GUI, right? You can do it programmatically, and there will be an API endpoint that will do that action. What happens actually in the background when you do something in the GUI, it's an API call actually from this list that gets done in the background, right? So you can use something like developer tools in your internet browser. You can actually see every single API call. As you click on the GUI, that triggers an action in the backend, and that action is pretty much always a REST API call, right? So using developer tools, there's one way of discovering, right? As you go and you configure your templates, you can watch all the steps as you go through, register all the API endpoints, and then just automate those steps. So you get access to the API docs. This is how it looks, right? So we have configuration, device inventory here. You would system device, this is a post call. You'll actually add a new device into your fabric with that. You can get more information about every device. You can delete devices from your fabric. You can bootstrap them. You can claim devices at this stage. You can generate whatever that is. You can reboot them, right? So all of these functions can be done automatically through this programmatic interface. The nice thing is you can actually try it out. If you click on one of those API endpoints, so in this case, I have the vEdge status, you have the option of trying it out within the web interface itself, right? So do a tryout that goes and actually gets that API call to your manager instance and returns the information nicely in JSON format. You have the request body here so that you can see the status of your vEdges. You can save them in the database. You can plot them on a Grafana dashboard or whatever you think it's useful for your use case. If you don't have a fabric, right, and you're just getting started and you don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on these devices and building your own fabric just to test things out and learn, we have developer.cisco.com/SD-WAN actually is going to bring you to what we call a dev center. And in there, you can find links to sandboxes, right? We actually have a sandbox that you can use. You reserve it for, I believe, up to a week, and then you can renew that. So you can just, I want to get started. You get full admin access to it. So if you break something, that's okay. You just destroy that sandbox. It's all virtual anyway. You destroy it, you spin it up again, and you go at it one more time. So there's the sandbox. There's the documentation. So the same documentation that I've showed you on the manager itself, we have it under SD-WAN API docs. So you see here different versions, right, of the manager and each of the API endpoints that come with that version. Of course, as we evolve and new versions come out, there'll be more API endpoints added. They'll be better documented. So we always work on improving these APIs. So not only documentation, you have learning labs, you have code exchange. Code exchange is a place where you can find GitHub repos where folks like you are contributing code back to the community. So they've done, they have scripts, for example, to apply templates programmatically. So don't be scared. You don't have to start from scratch. There's people that have gone through the steps that you will go through if you get started on this. And they decided to share. We have hundreds of different sample codes on Code Exchange. So you can find all of that on developer.cisco.com/SD-WAN. Conclusions. Catalyst SD-WAN breaks control planes, switching fabric, and I/O modules into different components for scalability purposes and calling it SD-WAN. Provides a programmable REST API interface. The Swagger documentation is available on the manager itself at API docs, and resources to get you started are available here. And since we have a bit of time, I can actually go and show you the sandbox. Okay, let's give it a try. Have you folks seen the sandbox, SD-WAN? Probably not. Okay. So the developer SD-WAN. So here's the link where you can find everything from. So view the docs. You also have the learn section in there, sandbox, and then videos. There's some videos that I've done a while back. on how to build templates and apply them programmatically in your vManager, in your manager now. And like we were saying, there's a link to the sandboxes. And there's an always-on sandbox, what we call it. So this is at all times available, and we'll have a look at that one. And there's also a reservable sandbox. This is the one that I was telling you that you can get up to a week or so, and you get full admin access on it for free, everything, by the way. You get access to it, and you can mess it up, play, start, do whatever you want with it for that time. So if I try it out here, let's see if this link is going to work. I'm going to log in. All right, so let's see. There's, as you can see, there's a bunch of sandboxes in here. We're going to go for the SD-WAN one. That is SD-WAN 20.10, the always on. So we're going to do a launch. This, I'll do it for 2 hours. And we're going to do a launch. So that should give me a set of credentials. Let's see, where is the link? Right here. Open link in new tab. DevNet user. With that password. All right, so I have here a always on SD-WAN fabric, vBomb for whatever reason it's unreachable. There's a vSmart, a vManage. Like I said, this is still running 20.10. 20.12 would be the one that they've changed the names, which is the latest one. And then you have 4 unreachable WAN edges for whatever reason. The thing is with this, it's an always on, so people connect to it, and some of them are malicious, and some of them break the fabric, so we have to kind of reset it every so often. The reservable one would be my suggestion for you if you're gonna want to get full sandbox dedicated for you for a week, and it's only you. You would have to VPN to get access to it, but it's yours. So here, like I was saying, you get access. This is your manager. You can see site health, tunnel health, and you can also see that API docs that I was telling you, right? The Open API spec. Which is this. So all the API endpoints, and as you start configuring, right, device inventory, what can we get here? We can get the management of the vManager. We can try it out. We can execute. Right, it shows you the curl command that you can run. This is the request URL, that's the API endpoint, and that's the response body. So you get basically, in this case, the management IP of the manager instance, it should be, which is some vManage is the local host. Then you have multiple V edges showing up in here, and then vSmart. So this is just one API endpoint. You could do root certs, device templates. All right, let's see if we can get a device template. Execute. Oh, I need to specify the device model ID. Anyway, so you can look at this and the developer tools in the browser that I was also telling you about. Let me show you those two. That's kind of brute forcing your way into the API. You would go and read the documentation, but if I go, where's this? Developer tools. Developer tools. So as you perform actions in here, right, I clicked on the vSmart. You see on the right-hand side all the API endpoints, right? It would be a vManage data stream. You would click on it, and you would see actually the API endpoint that is going to extract that specific data. So exactly what you see in here, right, is displayed as a GUI in here. Right, so as you do your functions, whatever you want to do in the GUI, you can follow along in the developer tools, capture all those API endpoints, and then you can automate whatever you've done in the GUI, right, by knowing all the API endpoints. Or you can read the documentation, or you can do learning labs to get you started. That's, I think, all I had for you for 30 minutes. Any questions, folks? Hopefully you found something new. SD-WAN is very cool technology. I've been involved with it for a while. I've seen it evolve. And yeah, if there aren't any other questions, thank you so much. Hope you enjoy Cisco Live. And let me know. Oh, by the way, we have the surveys. I believe there's surveys for these sessions too, so please fill out the survey if you found it useful. Let me know how I can improve this presentation, right? Your thoughts, if you found it, what was good, what was not. We want to bring it back next year and we want to make it better for you. So thank you all. Thank you for coming to this session.